Hello, this is Gerald Johan van Was. After longer videos, it's about time to have a shorter video about words and letter combinations in words, which also are representations, like definitions of what they are really uh, yeah, saying, what they are really referring to. And I have a method for that which organizes all the letters as orientations in a focus in space and time. That's basically what I have, and by having all the differences, you have a kind of balance. The balance that you hear, which we balance out between all the things that we hear and all the differences that we hear, where we use a spatial reference, a time reference, or a context-based reference. So what will the, for instance, mean? Beforehand, we can already define it and then compare it to the letters and the letter combination, and they should actually be the same thing. And of course, we do that unconsciously with the letters, but the references that we use and that we associate, when they are correct, we can remember them also more easily and associate them further also more easily. And that's how this works also. Of course, you can have, like in computer languages, a language which works, but you have to memorize it and so on. Actually, that is not a very logical system, even if it's based upon logic. It's based upon logic alone. It's much more easy if we would have a programmed, any programmed logic that is also logical for nature, with that kind of balance. And that's what letters are. And that's how we remember letters, and that's how they work. What should the all mean? It is quite a neutral pinpointing something that we can define it with the. We can define it as something that we can use for something. It's quite a general term but we use it for a very specific thing that we define. That's more or less what we can derive from it. Will that be visible in the organization of the three letters? Yes, it will, and I will tell you how. Of course, we will have to go and have the balanced out letters, of course, but what we really notice when we have these three letters that we use and the three kinds of organization that we have in letter orientations. In our orientations, we should define things either with a very fixed point, and when that is not possible, this point is moving, it's changing, so, or with a timing direction. And when we also have not really a very good direction, we're going to follow what is changing the whole time, what is happening the whole time, how is it something behaving. And that's the third category. So three categories with three different perspectives into one focus, two focuses, time of course, or three focuses, context. That's what I will generally name this, although context against time and space might be a quite vague term in that relationship. So how about I can have a better definition of a word that for that, but I don't think a time-space behavior will immediately be a good definition for everybody. We start in a spatial reference with a fixed point. Then we also have a context-based point also in the middle there. And then also a time-based point, direction in the second category, the letter E. And the middle category, we have three categories. These categories are not only horizontal, vertical, diagonal, because these directions are mostly only used profoundly in the second category, so they are not in every category, in every level the same. They have the same importance. Of course, they lay all there, but the first letters are all starting points. The second letters are all highlights. and the last letters are all yeah, what comes after, an after effect, let's say. And in numbers, it's you can say that you can also have all these levels as numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 levels and 9 positions, which we can also use, but it's not so important. Numerology, I don't think it's that important. When we are exceeding the number 3, it's not always very practical to do so, but 1, 2, 3 is a good option. 1, 2, 3 points, 1, 2, 3 directions, 1, 2, 3 orientation. Here I will not define it how we use that. 1, 2, 3 is a very good option to use to organize ourselves automatically. And what's the difference between the first position, the starting point, the middle position or the highlight, and the ending? Is that in numbers, in the 1, 2, 3 numbers, for instance in the first 3 categories, there is something which is coming to the first number, 1, coming to 1. So A is coming to 1. It's defining itself. It's trying to find itself, and so on. T is the 1 position. So that's a certainty. So here T is a certainty point, the first certainty point, like the last row is actually the uncertainties. It's a clear focus. That's what we will going to use. In T, it's actually the letter which defines how we're looking for a good definition, a clear focus. When A is making itself aware, T is defining something. You also have it in grammar sometimes with the T, is that T is, it becomes real. With the T, it really becomes real. It becomes definable. It's formed, and so on. As you can hear with the letter T. It has a clear focus. And let's look for that point where that the is where that focus lies. And when we have it in the system with 1 focus, 2 focus or 3 focus, it's of course in the first category with the 1 focus. So we try to have a focus upon a center. And the T is also centered perfectly in the middle. I mean, certainly if you start from it, it's still, you can define it certainly from the middle to and from the middle, from a middle onwards, you can define it as that. So its focus is in the middle, and in a time frame, if we would even add that, we can also have it there in the middle. But in the middle, it's also neutral. So it's neutral, and it's neutral in time as well. So we will not use time with T, even though time starts with T. The time starts within the now moment. I will come to that category, that definition immediately. But first we will have to define the point itself. So the point is, we start from the middle, because the whole system is also in our focus towards a middle, is our basis for orientating ourselves in space. When it's not influenced by the other letters that we have to start somewhere else. If we start from T, it starts from the middle, but a bit up also with the vertical. And a bit up is then that kind of focus where, it's a quite good measurement, where we will find the practical points of differences that can define itself as being different, as having a practical difference, or that has an openness to define itself with that point of difference. Compared to A, which is quite flat on the surface, the T is that highlight that highlights a form, a definition, or whatever. So that's the T. And the T compared to time, because we will also involve time, is of course in the timings with a starting point anywhere and something which is changed anywhere else does not need that perspective of change. It's all into the now. That's the starting point. It's in the now. So it's perfectly in the middle where timings can occur in the background, but they're not necessary to focus upon. And there we have that point of T where that I lies. The H is about a frame that we are going to find. We have to find it via context. So where is that context? Where is that frame? It should actually define the whole area in which the whole materialization process that we're going to perform, let's say, or going to associate there, will be thriving. If we would have ourselves as a focal point, then it's on the number 2. It's the size is almost like the from the 1, 2, 3 option. It's the 1, 2 almost. That's in balance. That's more or less the balance that you have. It's not we are not the center point. It's the thing which is the center point. So it's in between me and you. It's in between everything. It's in so we're a little bit in the middle focus, in the now focus. So we have it here. We have our context-based region in the now, and also as a certain slightly highlighted awareness that there is something there. So what's the next letter and last letter, and the concluding letter is where it all will conclude itself, is the letter E, where we have an association and we can combine all these associations, that we have our focus in the middle and in the now moment as a focus that we realize there is something, and the H is more the thing like, okay, something is thriving there, it works there, it works in the whole area, so we could associate it also further in a timing process or whatever in the whole area of H, and it will focus upon that highlight again, that highlight what it means, what it really means, and where it can be used for also in a changeable context. E is usually an awareness that you can use it in time, and it uses the conditions of where a change can happen. So the can also be used in a time context, and it is also, but because it ends with E, emphasized that it can be used in a timed context, so that you can use it for something. And that will be defined by the definition of here are the conditions where the change can be seen, where the change can be used for it. So what do we have? We have a focus on the in space, so of something here at this moment, also now, where it also receives the context of where it can thrive into a timed context, where it can thrive and be itself within all kinds of timing, all kinds of conditions, all kinds of changes that could be associated with it. And that's how the is used. More is not needed. It is really describing how we use the. The is not just pointing upon an object or subject, and that's it. No, it is an object and subject which is pointed at because we want to use it for something. We want to use it into a timed idea. So and that's what the means, and that's how it is described in the letters. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye.